Companies that produce and manufacture weapons that were used to bomb Gaza in 2005. And these 4 companies are BDS Systems, Northrop Grumman, Tesco Supermarkets, and Motorola. BDS Systems and Northrop Grumman produce weapons like Apache helicopters and Hellfire missiles. And our university, Carleton, is invested in these companies. These weapons aren't just used against Palestinians, they're used all over the world, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, etc. So, they made up a very detailed divestment campaign document, which details how each of these companies violate international law and human rights. And they called upon the university, through the Board of Governors, to divest from these 4 companies, to divest from them and to implement a socially responsible investment policy for the fund. So this is what we have been doing on campus. And the movement has been growing. We had numerous success in terms of solidarity and support on campus. Right now we have over 30 students groups that endorsed the campaign. We have student unions, service centers that have endorsed the campaign. The Graduate Student Union passed a unanimous resolution to endorse the campaign. The Undergraduate Student Union passed a resolution to endorse the campaign. And we have built this support by reaching to students and teaching them about where their money, where their tuition money is going. And now the movement has grown so much. And we will keep going to the Board of Governors until they divest, because they did it in South Africa. In South Africa, on campuses like Regina and Carleton, we had the Anti-Apartheid Action Group going around. And they forced the universities to divest from companies that were funding and were complicit in apartheid South Africa. Mind you, the 4 companies that we're focusing on are not Israeli companies. They are British and American companies. But they produce weapons that Israel uses to bomb civilian population. As students, we say no. Our tuition money, and as faculty as well, we have huge support from faculty and staff on campus who are they are part of the pension fund. They're saying, we do not want our pension, we do not want to benefit from companies that produce weapons and Hellfire missiles that kill civilian populations in Palestine. So the campaign has grown so much. Of course, we have faced backlash from apologists of apartheid and apologists of weapon manufacturing companies. And these people also, of course, exist, but we tell them we have the truth on our side. We have the facts on our side. We have international law on our side, and that's what usually wins in the end. If you want to apologize for a state that racially discriminates between people, then that's not acceptable on campuses. That is not acceptable for public opinion, especially in Canada. That is not acceptable for anybody's morality or ethical standards. That is not acceptable, and we will say no for it. When we talk about equality and human rights, we talk about it for all. Regardless of religion, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of race, we talk about it in inclusivity. It has to be granted to all. And those rights are non-negotiable. Those rights are not negotiable. So I want to show you a little video that Saya made. The people on the video are some of our supporters on campus from different groups that have endorsed. Some are faculty, some are retired faculty, some are coordinators of service centers. So I just want to show you this video briefly and then come back and show you something else.
It's not just about students. Or professors.
It's about human rights.
It's about standing with international law.
Against occupation and war.
Whether it takes place in Palestine or America Latina.
Throughout Africa.
Or anywhere else in the world.
We're talking about divestment. Our university's pension fund invests in companies that support war, occupation,
and other violations of international law around the world.
I don't want my tuition dollars funding war. When I retire, I don't want my pension to be built on others' pain.
I am retired, and this isn't right.
A student-led campaign has taken up the fight
To get Carleton's pension fund divested from companies that are complicit in the oppression of the Palestinian people.
and other oppressed people around the world.
Hold on. That sounds nice and all, but I hear that the Board of Governors won't even listen to us. There's no way Carleton will ever go with this. It can't happen.
Yes, it can.
How do you know?
Because we did it before. In 1988, the Carleton Anti-Apartheid Action Group forced the university to divest from South African apartheid.
Wow, was it easy?
Hell no. But we made it happen. Activism, commitment, and solidarity.
Okay, so it can happen.
But people will say, instead of taking a stand against injustice,
Maybe we should just remain neutral? Hold on.
Who cares what they say?
As Desmond Tutu, who won the Nobel Peace Prize fighting apartheid in South Africa, said,
If you're neutral in situations of injustice,
You have chosen the side of the oppressor.
okay, alright.
This is our campus.
Work and teach.
And study.
Because you know, it's our money
Our tuition dollars, our future pension.
and our current one.
and we don't want it to go overboard.
Our military occupation.
No one said the struggle will be easy. But it's our campus and we're going to fight for it.
Join us.
Okay, so this is just to give an idea of what's going on in Carleton. Very brief idea. I mean, these are just faces of some of the organizations that have been fighting with us and working with us on this, including faculty, retired faculty, alumni, graduate students, undergraduate students, staff, unions, including QP, which, you know, in Carleton, QP 4600 is where the TAs and contract instructors are part of, and that's also their pension fund. So in Carleton, of course, it wasn't easy to build this solidarity basis. We had to do the work. We had meetings after meetings with students, with student groups. We went to their general membership meetings. We presented over and over again. In each group, they went through a membership vote to vote on endorsing us. It was a very inclusive process. And then when we were ready to go to the Board of Governors, when we have established this space, we were ready to go to the Board of Governors to tell them, we want you to divest. And that was after we built the basis of the movement on campus. So what happened was we held a big general assembly of every group on campus that has endorsed. Anybody was welcome to come, to plan an action, to go to the next Board of Governors meeting, to put a motion forward to the Board of Governors for divestment. The Board of Governors refused to listen to us one time after another. They would not respond to our emails. They refused to put the resolution on the agenda. We have gone through all the channels with them. to avoid what we did in the end, which was a very powerful action, which I will show you in a second. They refused to hear us. They refused to hear the students. We have collected over 2,500 petition signatures, and we have over 30 groups on campus. Their memberships are huge, who have endorsed the campaign. And we have done letter writing campaigns to counselors, to executives, to the Board of Governors, over 2,000 letters during that letter writing campaign, asking them, telling them, we are the students and we are asking you to do this. And they still refuse to listen to us, which is not surprising from university administrations and Board of Governors, but we went through all the channels. We tried to sit down with them, they refused to sit down with us. We tried to meet with them, they refused to have any kind of discourse or discussion or dialogue about the situation. So what we decided to do last year was to go to their Board of Governors where we were supposed to present our motion but was rejected. We held a rally there and we shut down the Board of Governors meeting. It didn't happen. The Board of Governors meeting did not happen on campus because students were like, this is not okay, and we will sit here until you listen to us. There was about 400 students who marched to the Board of Governors meeting and managed to shut it down. And that's including faculty, that's including staff, that's including students, that's including alumni, and people, retired faculty who currently benefit from the pension fund. So I want to show you this powerful video that I think is great. And this is about the action that we did last year. And after that action, our support on campus tripled. And we had more people signing up and joining the campaign. We had much bigger support on campus because students are realizing this is not okay. You cannot trick people for the longest time. Yes, nobody knew what companies we were invested in, but when some group did the research, and they have the research to back it up with facts, and our research was revised by many people, including academics and lawyers, to make sure that everything in it is accurate. They did not criticize one thing in the document because they cannot find one thing that's wrong in the document. Everything that we presented is based on fact, and that is where our power comes from. So I want to show you this action quickly, and then we come back for Q&A and a wrap-up for this talk.
And to organize this powerful direct action.
Carleton University's Board of Governors was forced to cancel a meeting this afternoon as a result of a raucous protest. About 300 students gathered in the building where the meeting was to be held. They were demanding the university pull its investments in 5 companies they say are complicit in human rights violations against Palestinians in the Israeli-occupied West Bank. The students say the board tried to restrict their attendance and refused to debate their motion.
The current campaign that we have going that's been in the news is the divestment campaign that was launched just over a year ago. And what the campaign focuses on is Carleton's pension fund and the companies that it's invested in. We focused on 4 that are complicit in violations of international law and human rights in the occupied Palestinian territories.
Many people find details of the actual numbers, and we are given the opportunity to actually present to the board and have our voice actually heard that perhaps this would gain some steam.
We've invited them to the launch of that divestment campaign. We've had numerous teach-ins about the divestment campaign that the Board of Governors have always been invited to. We've emailed them numerous times trying to meet with them. They have never responded. They have never come. They've never asked to look at it or look into it.
But we did try to use their methods, right? Like, we have engaged in their process, in their liberal bureaucratic process. But that didn't work. You know, we've tried it, and we had no choice but to do this.
And so we finally, this past March, after we had the victory at the Carleton University Student Association, where we took our divestment campaign, and they passed a motion that calls for Carleton to divest from companies profiting off of illegal occupation and create a socially responsible investment policy. We went to present to the Board of Governors. So we submitted a motion. The way it had to go was a motion to the Executive Committee, and they decide whether a motion even makes it to the Board of Governors.
There's 4 elected student members on the Board of Governors. They're actually all allies of ours. And one person actually had put forward motion on behalf of us.
So all of the student representatives on the board of governors support this motion.
Yeah,
So in other words, the actual members that are elected by students, and the by far the largest segment of the university community is in support of this, and you can't even get your motion through the executive. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Essentially, they said the board of governors will not be discussing this matter at all.
Very, very disturbing, because it's anti-democratic, in the most basic way. Here you have the largest constituency at the university, which is supposed to be under a collegial governance model. That's the way that legal precedents are set up, and the students can't even get a motion to be tabled at the board of governors. That's what you're looking at. So no wonder you'd want to shut it down. I mean, I would argue that in a situation like that, where you're disregarding democratic practice to that extent, that it's legitimate for the representatives to do everything they can to shut the meeting down.
We are not engaged in a struggle that means we sit down and do nothing. That's a great deal of difference between non-resistance to evil and non-violent resistance. Non-resistance leaves you in a state of stagnant passivity and bedlam complacency, while non-violent resistance means that you do resist in a very strong and determined manner.
This is a statement about you are illegitimately, we do not recognize you and your authority, and we will reclaim this thing. And we did it in a creative way, and I think that's what was so great about Tuesday. It wasn't, let's march, let's just be angry, let's sit down. We said, you are a farce, you're ridiculous, so we're going to treat it like that. We're going to dance, we have salsa going, we have drumming going, we have, chanting and singing. It's more than that. This is the real world. I hate when people say, wait till you get into the real world. It's like, so I didn't realize I was asleep right now.
Hi, my name is Jason McDonald. I'm the director of BDS here at Carleton University, and I'm here to inform you that while the board had every intention of carrying on with its meeting today, a number of board members weren't able to make it to the board meeting. And as a result, the board will not be proceeding with its meeting. Thank you.
I think it arouses a sense of shame within all instances. I think it does something that tests the conscience and establishes a sense of guilt. Now, so often people respond to it by engaging more in the guilt-evoking action and attempt to drown the sense of guilt.
Downstairs, what we're going to do, we're going to formalize, we're going to let them out, we're going to be loud, we're going to tell them back here, we're going to show them how shameful they are, we're going to let them out. And then we're going to go home knowing that we shut them down, knowing that we will not be found.
The people of Zion have finally awoken and said no more walls, no more refugees, no more keeping people upon their knees. And the history books with something
all we have are voices, all we have are drums, all we have are voices, and we will not hesitate that from.
Okay, so this was the action that we did last year where we shut down the Board of Governors meeting, as you saw, and we had a walk of shame for the board members who were able to make it upstairs. We waited for them very respectfully in two lines, and we had a walk of shame for them. The walk of shame has become a really powerful tool to make a statement and to tell those in governing positions that you have to go through the walk of shame if you're not using your either elected position or or position of power to actually respect the voice of students and the voices of human rights and dignity and equality and justice. So I want to call everybody here to join the movement in Regina. We have Students Against Israeli Apartheid in Regina here, and there's a sign-up sheet that's passing. The first page will be for students, the second one will be for community members. Join the movement. Join organizing. Come and organize with us. You stand on the right side of history, and we want you to stand on the right side of history. We want to repeat what students and the international community did in South Africa when they rejected the apartheid racist regime. And we're going to say, no more injustice, no more inequality. We are complicit in this as much as pretty much everybody else, and we refuse to be silent. We will not let you silence our voice. We have the facts on our side, we have the laws on our side, we have the numbers on our side, and we have justice on our side. So we will not let you take that from us, as they said. And for those who say we should remain neutral in the situation, we say, as Desmond Tutu said, if you remain neutral in situations of injustice, then you have chosen the side of the oppressor. And we refuse to do that. So now, after the sign-up sheet has passed, we would probably open the floor for Q&A, and if anybody has questions, bring them on.
I just want to remind everybody that as Canadians, we are more complicit than the because apartheid came from us. Apartheid began here, the First Nation people, it was taken to South Africa, it was taken to Palestine, so you are more complicit and you owe something to everybody in this world to do something to end it because it started here.
Absolutely, and I want to echo that, and I want to remind everybody that we also stand today on colonized Indigenous land in Canada as well, and we stand in solidarity with all Indigenous people. As we always say in our events, in the basis of unity for Saya, we cannot talk about Palestinian Indigenous rights without acknowledging the Indigenous rights of Indigenous people here in Canada, and the fact that the architects of South African apartheid, they got the idea of Bantustans and racial separation in South Africa after a visit to Canada, where they saw the reservation systems and they said, wow, that's a great system, we should do it in South Africa. So Canada is very much complicit in the architecture of apartheid South Africa, and we should keep that in mind as well. Thank you. Yeah, so after you say your words, we can take more questions. I saw some hands there.
Thanks very much. My name is Dave McKee. I'm president of the Canadian Peace Congress, which is a member of the World Peace Council. And I'm here, I'm not from Regina, I'm from Toronto, but I've been touring Western Canada as part of our campaign to draw people's attention to the role of NATO in the world, Canada's role in NATO, and in particular, most immediately, I guess, the drive to war against Iran. And I was really glad to be here and hear this presentation. It's a fabulous campaign, and I just want you to know that we and the Canadian Peace Congress is fully supportive of the campaign against Israeli apartheid, fully supportive of the BDS movement. Also let you know that the World Peace Council, which is an organization of about 120 organizations in 90 countries, has consistently spoken out in favor of Palestinian sovereignty, self-determination, against Israel's policies in the region and Israel's policies of occupation. And we're very committed to fighting to achieve that, and I look forward to working together with you. Thanks very much.
Are there any more questions? I saw a hand there. Yeah.
Okay, question. What about the CPP? You're talking about us, like for us being retired, like you're saying I'm in that CPP retirement.
Yes. So your question is, what's the role of retired? Okay. So the question here for retired people, we see in the divestment campaign, what's the role? And I think it's an integral role, because people who are already retired and they benefit from certain funds, they are the main beneficiaries of that fund, and they are the ones who get. So you have a say in your fund. You should have a say in your fund, and you should know where that money is coming from. So the voice of retired people is very powerful in these campaigns, to stand and say, no, I'm part of this fund, and yes, of course, everybody wants a retirement fund, and we need to ensure that people have retirement funds, but we want our funds to come ethically. We do not want to be benefiting from war profiteers, and we do not want to be benefiting on behalf of civilian people that are being killed. So yes, retired populations have a very integral role in these divestment campaigns.
I noticed coming in here, I was asking directions for the RIC Atrium here, and stopped at a stand calling themselves Israeli Appreciation Week, and it would seem that this is kind of an effort to simultaneously put out more pro-Israeli sentiment and simultaneously to Israeli apartheid BDS movement. But how the message they're putting out is that the student union motion to join the BDS movement was railroaded through. There were no two sides represented. It's just some kind of radical movement that's been shoved through. Yeah. And I would ask how you anticipate bringing dialogue to the people, and not, like, how do we avoid having one group of people sitting over here talking about Israeli BDS because of injustices in Palestine, and then another group over here saying Israel is the only hope for the Middle East, and those guys are not being impartial, they don't know the whole story, here's the whole story over here. And how do we get people involved and understanding, yes, engaged in the dialogue, because that seems like a major problem with the Israeli apartheid recognition movement.
Yeah. Thank you for asking this question. So many people have asked me too today, walking in, there's people set up there with the table, Israeli Appreciation Week, or sometimes they call it Peace Week, I don't know. And that's a good question, that's a fair question. I would say this year, Zionist organizations here have been kind of trying to change strategies on how to combat Israeli Apartheid Week and the whole discourse on apartheid. And their tactics have been changing. I don't know. And that's a good question. That's a fair question. I would say this year, Zionist organizations here have been kind of trying to change strategies on how to combat Israeli Apartheid Week and the whole discourse on apartheid. And their tactics have been changing over the years because they have been failing. This year, the state itself, the Israeli state, funded 100 envoys coming from Israel to tour the world at the same time of Israeli Apartheid Week, to tour the world and speak in public events to say how great Israel is and how it's the only democracy in the Middle East and how it grants equality to everybody and how it's GLBTQ friendly and how it has a pride parade whereas Palestinians don't and all that kind of stuff, right? So these kinds of discourses, and you asked how we can bring voices together. The beauty of the BDS movement is that it's very inclusive. We don't talk in terms of one state, two state solution. We talk in terms of principles of human rights, dignity, equality, and justice. and there's nothing more powerful than that. There's nothing more inclusive than that. We welcome anybody and everybody who would want to join fighting for these people. And the first people to have joined us were Jewish organizations and Jewish groups such as Independent Jewish Voices, Not in Our Name. These are Jewish groups that say, don't use my name as a Jewish person to justify policies of a state. That is unacceptable. It's extremely offensive. One of the founders of Carleton is a Jewish person himself. There is nothing more inclusive than that. And we invite everybody. This is where you have dialogue.
Yeah.
This is dialogue. When we talk in terms of basic principles, yes, we might disagree on tactics and strategies. Disagreement is good. We will disagree on tactics and strategies and say it's better maybe to do it this way than that way to achieve equality. As long as we agree that our end goal is equality and justice, human rights, and granting Palestinian indigenous populations the rights that they have been deprived of, then we're on the same page. And it's okay if we disagree on tactics. And it's okay if some people don't think BDS is the best way to go about it. It is a way that the Palestinians asked us to do, and we are open to constructive, because the movement is still growing, of course. And if we ask people to be a part of it, then they should have also the same say in terms of how we approach strategies. But this is what they asked us to do as oppressed people under occupation. It is not our space or place as people standing as allies and solidarity with Palestinians to say, oh, the best solution for you is a two-state, because I'm a scholar and I know a lot about Israel-Palestine, and I actually visited there a couple of times. This is what's better for you. This is what's best for you. No, no. Let me tell you, as somebody who lives under apartheid, I know what's best for me. And if you want to be an ally, just like we say with, just how we stand in solidarity with Indigenous people here too, right? We cannot be going allyship. And to understand what it means to be an ally is very powerful, and we need to, as activists, be very aware of that. We go ask, how can I help? What do you ask me to do as a person who stands in solidarity? Okay? And this is where the power comes from. In terms of inclusivity, the BDS movement on campuses and in the community has been the most diverse. We have people from all walks of life who are organizing with us, including mainly women and people of color, and people who know what real oppression means, including organizations, including churches, including unions, including religious figures, such as rabbis or Muslim religious figures or Christian religious figures, including indigenous, Canadian indigenous groups and peoples. I have never seen something more inclusive and diverse than this. And this is where our power again comes from. We have different organizations such as Queers Against Israeli Apartheid that launched a few years back. And they are a group of queer people who say, no, when we call for equality for queer people around the world, we cannot accept that queer people in Palestine are also under occupation and apartheid. And we stand in solidarity with them. We have countless of artists who are joining the movement and refusing to go play in Israel until it complies with international law to make a statement. We have Punks Against Israeli Apartheid that just launched a couple of months ago. And they say, you know, no, punk is not racist. And we refuse to be complicit in this. And we will join the movement and we will not play in Israel until everybody is welcome in Israel. Until everybody is welcome in Israel.
Yeah.
We will play in Tel Aviv, but when the Palestinians are also welcome to be in Tel Aviv, welcome to go back to their homes. Until then, we will not stay there. So, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, speak up. Take the mic.
If we look at the 100 envoys, for example, that are touring around the world in response to Israeli apartheid, there's been a very conscious shift, and it's not an incidental one. This is coming out of the Department of Foreign Affairs in Israel. So they used to debate us on fact. They used to
to debate us on, is this ethnic cleansing or is this not? Is it occupation or is it not? Should Gaza have been invaded or should it not? But they lost those arguments, and they've been losing them consecutively for years and years, and they've seen increasingly dwindling support on campuses around the world, and so they shift tactics, 100%. So now, who are these 100 people? They're pop stars, they're movie stars, they're singers, they're models, what have you, because there's this effort to just radically reshape what people conjure up in their minds when they think of Israel, which is right now, images of checkpoints, military oppression, torture, incarceration, what have you. But now they want people to think, beaches, liberty, shopping, all of these types of things. And to me, I think that's really significant. I think that's a sign of a movement that's desperate and that's grasping at straws and that is in its death throes. And I think that's something that should give us confidence.
Yes, actually, thank you for this. And I also want to say, in terms of the argument that Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East, that was also an argument used before the Arab revolutions. After the Arab revolutions remained. I did not see any more democratic revolution happen than the one I saw in Tunisia and Egypt. I mean, you cannot be just bringing this argument over and over again. It's dead, I'm sorry. But also, another thing that's funny is that during South African apartheid, the same arguments were in place. People were saying South Africa is the only democracy in Africa. I'm sorry. If it's a democracy in terms of elected and how we do elections, sure, it is a democracy. But we have segregation, where one population is systematically privileged and benefiting on behalf of indigenous people. That doesn't sound too democratic to me. When we talk about democracy, we have to ask, what do you mean by democracy? Do you mean by voting? Because if I have the right to vote, and then I have a missile coming my way, that doesn't seem too democratic to me. Another funny thing about the envoys and people who are setting tables up right there, I want that to give you more incentive. That means we're doing something right. When we get the state, the state, ministries of the Israeli state, to pay people to come here and give propaganda and avoid talking about the facts because we win that argument, then we're doing something right. On the other hand, we have thousands and thousands of people organizing Israeli apartheid around the world, volunteers. Because when we have justice again on our side and we speak of those principles, we don't need to be paid to say that. We don't need to be, nobody's paying me to be here today. Nobody is paying any of the organizers who are doing this organizing around the world. And again, that's the power of it. When we pay people to say stuff that is completely empty of facts and conscience and not based on justice and equality, it doesn't last long. So I want to tell people it doesn't last long. It should give us more incentive. It means that we are doing it right.
I'd like to answer that too. As a First Nations woman, I'd like to tell you that you cannot dialogue with your oppressor. For 519 years, there has been no dialogue with the oppressor. There's been dialogue with people of good conscience, like people in the BDS movement. Why dialogue? Why waste your energy? Pick your battles. Like the sister said, it means you're doing something right. The dialogue will not happen. You cannot dialogue with somebody that doesn't want to hear. Just ignore it, it'll go away.
The question was if the movement has any contact with Jewish students in Israel. And yes, we have boycott from within, which is people in Israel, academics, students, faculty, activists in Israel who are Israeli Jewish citizens of the state. And they have joined the movement very powerfully, and they have been very effective in terms of also calling for artists and whatnot not to come and perform in Israel. They say, as Israelis, we live there, we don't want you to come here because it's an apartheid state and it's an apartheid system. So yes, of course, we do have a lot of support from many Jewish Israelis themselves inside Israel, and that has been also very, and of course there are many people of conscience, and they go around, and many journalists, Israeli journalists who are also conscious, and they stand in solidarity with us 100%.
I was just wondering if there's an available list somewhere of companies, corporations that you support if you would like to. access?
Yes, there is the Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions website, which is bdsmovement.org. That's bdsmovement.org. And if you go into that website, it can lead you to different types of boycotts. The economic one kind of showing which companies do benefit whatsoever. But in Regina, I would say the most clear one are products that come from the Dead Sea. These are products we need to be boycotting, because those products that come from the Dead Sea are resources that are stolen from Palestinian indigenous lands and that also sustain the apartheid system. So this is one clear thing that we can boycott here, but you can see more extensive lists on the BDS website. Ashley. Okay, so the question is, why is Carleton resisting meeting with us as students for the divestment campaign, and if there has been anything that came out after we shut down the BOG meeting? Okay, so there are many strategies that the administration tried to use in order to avoid us. The first one was, well, there's three aspects to the campaign. The one is the moral argument and the ethical argument, and I would assume most people here would agree on the moral argument that investing in companies that produce weapons is unethical. So we win that argument. And then there's the other financial argument that they have been using, which is, but the bottom line of the pension fund is to make money. We don't have space to talk about this when the bottom line is making money. But fortunately, we win that argument as well, because we have done the research, and we have found out that these unethical companies have been losing money for the pension fund. And we have also found that, and with the help of other professors that do research on divestment, that it's actually on the long run more sustainable and more beneficial if you invest in ethical companies as opposed to unethical companies. So that argument we also win. And then there's the last resort that they have been using, which is the legal argument, right? They say that legally we are obliged, we cannot divest. Legally, we cannot divest. But fortunately, we have done the research too, from also law professors who have helped us out with this. And it says that no, legally, actually, you can do this, and it does not violate any fiduciary responsibility for your beneficiaries in the fund. It actually keeps their interest in place. So they have been avoiding to talk to us, but after the BOG rally, they invited us to speak for a meeting, which was funny because the head of the financial advisor or something at Carleton, Duncan Watt, and the coordinator or the manager of the pension fund invited us for a meeting, which was really funny because they've never even returned our calls before or our emails. So after that, they're like, we need to talk, can we please meet? They were super nice. We sat down for an hour. We asked if we could record the meeting, and they accepted. So we recorded the whole meeting, and it was an hour. There was 3 of us who went and met with them. And basically, they were scared. They were very scared. And they were basically trying to convince us how they can't do this based on legal, like, their tactics is to try to neutralize us, right? And to absorb us and say, we are meeting with you, so you don't need to do rallies, you don't need to get upset, you don't need to, but we can't do this because the law doesn't allow us to do that. But we went prepared. And we showed them how the law doesn't actually, there's not one case, and how financially it doesn't make sense. They were not very prepared, so they said, we want to get back to you after we do the research, and they still haven't got back to us. So that's basically what happened, so we're still waiting for them. If they want to contact us, that's great, but we're going to keep doing our work. I mean, that's not going to stop us from doing our work. We are open to talk to them, and if they want to divest through those meetings, that's cool, we will still claim victory. And if they don't, that's cool, because we will divest in the end and claim victory. So they either take the shortcut or the long cut. It's up to them, but yeah. Okay, thank you everybody. And happy Israeli Apartheid Week. And I want to also join you all, ask you to join the organizing here in Regina. So here are the organizers. Please come organize with us and fight with us. Thank you.